Hello and welcome to KoiCast. I am Koi Jandro, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, people, and hates technology. I am very excited to join you today for an all-audio episode of me having audio. I am joined, as ever, by the great, the wonderful, the tech-savvy Jake Lloyd Bacon.
No.
Can you tell I have guilt about last week? How you doing today, Jake?
The only fucking word that you use to describe me is patient. All right? My fucking patience.
You know, when you can read, like the spider sense waves, like I always pictured that as like, in real life, that would look like rage because they're like orange and yellow.
Oh,
okay.
I
read all of your texts as having like those Spider-Man waves of just rageful like radiation.
I always read that as, oh shit. Like that's how I always read.
Yeah, that's when they're yellow, that to me, but orange is like getting angry at, oh shit.
That's fair. I get it. Yeah, no, it was not fun.
The 2 hours of like pure like flailing guilt when I was like, gotta make it work, and it just didn't exist.
I generally would be the sort of person that would be like, hey man, accidents happen, it's fine. But in this instance, I'm so glad that you experienced that guilt.
It was 5 hours of recording that I didn't have.
We've been doing this for too long remotely now at this point. Okay?
It was literally, I put port 2, the microphone into port 2 when we record on port 1, and it just didn't exist.
So
and we had
that
a
is
great
what happens
conversation.
because you never admitted.
Yeah. No, I looked at the thing today and I looked down, and what happened was I had the setup in a different position.
Right. Yep.
So peripherally, it looked like where I had been plugging it in.
Yep.
I had it flipped upside down.
Great.
Now it's the old way, and now my brain went, oh, that was the issue.
All right. Well, in any case,
we're back.
We did an entire, as listeners know, we did an entire, a letterbox year in review that I apologize, you guys are just never going to hear. There's no point in rehashing it. Unless, Koi, you want to give us some highlights, I'm more than happy to re-listen. But we don't want to like fake not knowing
I don't want to do
things.
fake discovery. I do want to say some of my favorite elements that I remember, because those will probably be highlights.
Right.
If I remember it. So I remember I was ahead of Jake by the same proportionate amount of last year.
Right.
But in this case, that proportion was higher. So it was like 80 movies. I also was jarred, but there were only 2 days in the entire year I didn't like have 2 weeks in the entire year I didn't have a movie. We both moved our most common day of the week to watch movies in a very fun way that made like very intuitive sense. Because I used to do like movie Sundays, and now I do meal prep Sundays. So it was cool to see like real time effects. And one of my favorite things was 2 of my friends made my best actors, or my most watch actors, which was really special. Like I just wouldn't have thought of that. Yuri made my most watched because of the animated films, and Jack Quaid made my top rated because of the Spider-Verse films, as well as there was something else that he was in. But it was really cool to be like, and Oppenheimer. So it was really cool to be like, top rated friend and most watched friend. It just felt like, the industry is so silly and small worldly, to see it in Letterboxd made it feel way more tangible.
Right. We went through and I made like a whole spreadsheet, which I guess look forward to next year when we actually have.
And I watched nearly 4 times as many 2023 films as Jake.
That was the crazy part. Yeah, the new movies is insane, but also the amount of movies you watched versus the hours was really fascinating.
Oh yeah, because I watched more hours last year, but like 50 more movies, but they were a lot of animated films. Right. So like the runtime was way shorter, even though I watched Oppenheimer, and Killers of the Flower Moon and all that.
What was your total hours for 2023 again?
335 hours, which is 181 diary entries.
Which is 10 less. You watched 344 last year, 44.3 to be exact. So you watched 10 less hours, but last year you only watched 165 movies.
So I watched a full 16 more movies in 10 less hours. We call that efficiency.
Right, yeah.
But what's crazy is Killers of the Flower Moon, long. Oppenheimer, long. Like there were, but I just think...
But it didn't make up for... Because there's always going to be long movies every year that you're watching, right?
Yeah.
It's just you watched all of those animated because you went on this giant animated run where those movies are... Some of them are only 70 minutes. They're barely an hour and a half.
And that's really going to chip away at your quota. So, yeah. I also logged less TV shows, which does, count for hours for, me. But yeah, it was, I got, we also talked about milestones. 50th movie I hit in May, 100th movie I hit in August, and 150th I hit in November. Almost cleared 200 movies, which is now my goal for 2024. I'd like to clear 200 movies. I feel like that'd be cool.
Yeah, I feel like you are on track the same as you were last year, which you hit your 50th on April 20th, your 100th on August 23rd, but then you didn't get to your 150th until right at the end of the year, December 17th. So you were on par for the majority of the year, and then at the end of the year, you just watched a ton more shit than you usually do.
31 movies in December. I watched 4 movies a day for a bit there. And then, yeah, I really also enjoyed our exact sensibilities being our themes. Like mine was like action and yours was like buzzy comedy or something. Like
quirky,
the dialogue
the word
about our
was
stuff
in there. Yeah, I don't remember the subgenres. Yeah. But who were
But
you?
yeah,
who was your
we had a
most
fun time.
Who was your most watch of the year? It had to be somebody from the animateds, right?
Jason O'Mara from the animateds with 11.
Who does he play in those?
He plays all sorts of characters.
Oh, gotcha.
I know he generally is Batman, but since he voices so many.
Got it. So there you go. You got Batmaned.
Yep. I mean, like tons of Seth Rogen, tons of Rosario Dawson, which is funny because Seth Rogen live action and animated. Yuri with 6, who made my top 8. And then director Sam Liu 9 because he did so many animated.
Last year in 2022, your top movies, your most watched was Tom Hanks with only 6.
So doubling that for an animated voice actor. Yeah.
Well, that's
and
what
whereas my lowest one this year was 6 because I watched a lot. It was, and what a fun journey. Like I feel like I caught up on a lot of DC lore in one year.
Right. Yeah. Those animated movies are great for when you're like, oh, I don't know that I'm going to go buy that book. But do you know what I mean? Like where I'm just like,
let me get a test run real quick and see, or to show other people like animated style, like the Frank Miller stuff, or that's always cool.
There are some DC readers in that route screaming at me like, no, read the fucking books. The better, the movies ruin them. But sometimes that's just going to be the end, you know?
Yeah, I wanted to give you some source material crap, but opted out of it.
Speaking of, this is completely unrelated, but have you watched any of the new season of What If yet? I'm sure you have.
Oh, I watched all of it. I think season 2 is way better than 1. Personally.
I just saw the episode break. I didn't realize it was out because there's just too much crap, and I didn't see it advertised a ton. I was
not this year.
I was looking at the episode titles, and there's a 1602 episode.
Dude, it is so exceptional.
It's got to be inspired by the Gaiman book that I've touted on this show tons of times as one of my favorite like alternate things, right?
Hardcore inspired, not adapted. So
vibes.
Okay.
So it's because I was thinking it's not a lot of the same characters. Because
it's vibes, but not direct story.
Got it. All right, but it's the same era.
But the vibes are immaculate.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, I gotta watch that.
It's really well illustrated. It's like Civil War. It's a totally different story, but it gets the motif. Yeah. And this is a really cool use of the motif.
All right, I gotta watch that.
And What If season 2 overall? I would watch them in order. What If season 2 overall is, to me, what I wanted season 1 to be, which is an actual what if, not like what if Peter Parker wore blue socks that day. Like season 1 always felt like pretty innocuous to me.
That's entirely fair. I don't think of season 1.
Season 1 felt very like, okay, that wouldn't happen, or if it does, it wouldn't affect anything. This is like, oh, we have groundbreaking stakes because we're doing an animated show, and there's like,
I don't know. I think the
voice actors.
I think that Captain America never becoming Captain America and instead Captain Carter. Like I think that's a pretty big things that would be wildly different in that universe from season 1.
I think I was just bummed about them not using those characters in live action when they did their almost analogy of them. So I don't know, it just felt like the stakes stayed low because they didn't actually like stick the landing to their own universe with them. Like they should have had Zombie Strange be Zombie Strange.
Can I ask you this? Was season 2 only good because you already had a low bar because of season 1? Is it simply that Season 2 would have been a B, which is strong, and it was an A- because of that. So it went up like some, but it was still very good as is. There's like a Blade Runner episode, which is incredible. The Mad Max themed episode, which basically like didn't get finished in time for season 1 is in season 2, and it's maybe my favorite half hour of Tony Stark since Iron Man 3. Like there's some really special stuff. All right.
So highly recommend. But this week, I did want to talk about the other side of the film world that ignores comic book content. As of release, this episode will be airing. You know what? There's plenty of Oscar-worthy performances, Angela Bassett, in comic book films that deserve some love if they weren't genre-related. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr., for saying the quiet part out loud during your recent Oppenheimer interviews. Yes, Oscar season is here. As of release, they have announced the Oscar nominees, but since we're recording this on Monday, as we do before Wednesday, I thought it'd be fun to kind of discuss what Jake has seen, considering his 2023 exposure smaller than mine, and who we would nominate with. I thought it'd be fun with Jake's limited exposure comparatively
and
versus
my general disdain for the Oscars.
Yeah, I love that you hate award season, and I love it. I think it's so important for art, and you think it is bad.
It's
for
the
art.
exact
But
opposite.
I thought. Oh, I
it's
disagree.
very good for
People
capitalism.
Get exposure. Well, yeah, capitalism is part of art in America.
Yeah, but
like you don't get to make movies without capitalism.
Sure, that's
here.
fair.
And you don't get to make movies unless people have heard of you. Award season.
That's not true. You do get to make movies. Anybody can go make a movie. You just don't get money for it.
Or the actors that you want to see in movies, except Jake's Unknowns, which deserve their shine.
Sure.
But I would love those actors to get, some name recognition, a la award season.
Sure.
But regardless of your disdain, have you followed like the Emmys, the Grammys, the Golden Globes, or anything?
All I know is that Paul Giamatti and Weird Al both got awards and went to In-N-Out, and that's the extent. That's the extent of my interest.
Is enough.
Yeah.
You watched The Bear. We've talked about it.
Of course. Bear winning for comedy is proof that none of it matters.
Ayo Edebiri winning in all three categories, making her an Oscar away from EGOT status, is a highlight for me because she got an Emmy, she already had a Tony, and then she got a Golden Globe this year.
Right.
So I love Ayo. She also claims Ireland, which I make. I don't know if you know this joke, but Ayo Edebiri was on the red carpet for Banshees of Inisherin forever ago because she was excited to see the movie, and they thought she was in it, so she played along and said she was in it, and then said she was the donkey. Ayo said she played Jenny the donkey, and it's become a long-running joke that she is from Ireland, so she's been thanking Ireland in her award speeches.
Somebody have better change that on the IMDb page for her. She better be credited as Jenny the donkey in Banshees. Hang on a second. I'm going to look up Banshees of Inisherin. Let's see. Does she have a credit? Because this is how the internet should work. We should actually...
At minimum, a wiki entry, because it's hilarious.
Sure. No, I don't see a Jenny the donkey. Oh, wait a minute. Jenny is played by Jenny, unless that's not the donkey. Because I don't think they give donkeys credit
normally. Or an IMDb page, but maybe if they're that
But there's
beloved,
Minnie the Pony. Oh, wait, no. They do credit the animals on IMDb because there's Jenny, Morse, and Minnie. And Minnie was a pony.
Yeah, and Minnie was... Oh, yes, and Jenny's emotional support donkey was Morse.
Right.
She had an on-set support donkey, which I respect. I love that IMDb committed to this.
Do a better job, IMDb.
Yeah, I give Io her love. But yeah, she's been killing it. My boy Barry being one of three there were 6 male Golden Globe nominees, of which 3 were Irish. Makes me very happy. We've had Andrew Scott, Cillian Murphy, Barry Keoghan, and depending on who's nominating, Paul Mescal, all killing it. So a lot of Irish love, making me happy. And Io, of course, representing Ireland and winning. But Oscar season, I'm really curious. I feel like Oppenheimer's in the bag. I don't think you've seen it yet.
For what? No, I haven't seen it.
I feel like it's going to get Best Picture, Best Director. I think it'll get Best Actor for Cillian.
Have they seen Barbie?
I think Barbie is going to be like that award season. Not like a bridesmaid, never a bride. I think it's going to get nommed for everything. It didn't win a single Golden Globe except for it got Best Song over Billie Eilish, Ryan Gosling's I Am Ken. I'm Just Ken. And his meme reaction is a high watermark for reaction shots. He's actually genuinely stunned and stares like at his friends and past the camera. And it's like, but that means he's probably gonna have to perform I'm Just Ken at the Oscars, which is what society's ready for.
Listen, if Billy Crystal could join him, I'd be all in.
Is there anything you want that you have seen to get nommed other than Barbie, which deserves all the love?
I mean, we talked all about it last week. But the Iron Claw, literally every actor in it was outstanding, and they all deserve some semblance of praise and award for good work, for a job well done. I think that, what's his name? Zac Efron is like obvious as the lead. But the gentleman who played Fritz von Erich, what's his name? Holt.
Is that the dad?
Holt McCallany? Yeah.
Holt McCallany is genius.
Was very good in that movie, in a way that is deceptively hard. I think it's one of those performances that looks like it was just all on the page, and so he didn't have to do very much.
Man, it's subtle.
But the way that man uses eye contact in that movie is really quite astounding. But I mean, yeah, I think that the Iron Claw is my hope that it gets a little bit of awards love, if at least if for no reason more rather than to have some more eyeballs on it than the way that Everything Everywhere All at Once, got more popular because of the awards it got.
See, look at that. Jake admitting award season has some merit.
Yeah, it's never not.
That's the point.
It's never not going to be the case, but it doesn't mean that these movies still didn't have to pay an exorbitant amount of money just to even do this. It's just a very very good advertising. That's all this is.
And that's what it has to be accepted as if you're in the know, but it does suck if you don't understand that element of it.
Right. But other than that, let me take a look at my 2023 actual movies. Let's see. Films. Let's see all the movies I watched in 2023 this year. Year 2023. Oh, wait. Does late 2022 count in the year? Is it calendar year? How does the Oscars work?
Well, the movies that came out in December are up for the 2024 Oscar ceremony. So I think it's calendar year.
So you think it's calendar year. So if I go to any in 2020, or if I just go to year 2023, then that should be all of the ones that are.
Should be, if memory serves.
Let's see. I think that Maestro might win some technical awards.
I'm into that.
As Napoleon, or at least be nominated as Napoleon, might win some technical awards, because, they're very similar movies. Alexandra and I spoke about this on the last episode, I believe, on the second episode of Hoycast, where they're kind of the same movie, whereas Napoleon's two different movies, Maestro is two different movies. Napoleon's war scenes are their own incredible spectacle, kind of unrelated to the rest of the movie. Maestro's musical performances,
his war scenes,
are kind of their own. Yeah. They're very similar in that sense. And I think that I could see both being maybe not quite, nominated for performance or for direction, but, technical awards being like, listen, this movie, the cinematography in this movie is incredible. The sound design is incredible. I could see Maestro winning music awards, which would be interesting because those awards would be to Leonard Bernstein. Because, do you know what I mean? Like, so I could see that
in my award ceremony. Across the Spider-Verse gets at least a nom. Like, I don't think it'll get, but I think it wins Best Animated. I hope it gets a nomination for Best Picture. Yeah,
I haven't seen that yet. But I just for the genre, I hope so. Let's see what else. I think
Air deserves more love than it's getting.
We talked about Barbie. Yeah, I don't know. Air to me is a good movie.
I know we are different, but the performances, like the monologue, Matt Damon's fucking.
It is, but it's
genius.
But I don't think that it's. I don't think that it's. They were Oscar-y. I don't think this is the problem with the Oscars. Is like
they're a flavor.
They're not. Yeah. I think that The Holdovers will deserve more than it gets.
It's been doing well with Giamatti getting all that love.
I know, but I don't think it's. I think that love is not going to be represented in the Oscars, even though it should be. I think
Poor Things will get some love.
If he was nominated for an Oscar for that performance, I would be like, yes, please. I think Saltburn might be nominated for performances. Maybe direction.
I think deservedly.
Maybe direction as well.
Yeah, Saltburn's easily one of my favorite experiences.
Everything else that I watched this year is either genre and, like RDJ said, uninterested in, or it's just stuff that was like, yeah, we're not going to see No Hard Feelings represented at the genre, or at or Self-Reliance. Even some really good movies, we're just not going to see. You're not going to see some of that stuff, like Theater Camp. My favorites of the year were all non-Oscar-y movies.
Yeah, it's fair. I'd love to see Past Lives get some love. I'd love to see.
You know what? 2023 movie should get an award for costuming and wardrobe. Haunted Mansion.
Hey, it did solid work. I don't disagree. You're right.
Like
that was
as far as wardrobe. The problem with wardrobe this year and all costume design is that Barbie exists,
and that's just an immaculate feat.
It's made for that. Like that's the whole fucking
and accomplishes it in spades.
Exactly.
Good God, is that movie gorgeous? I rewatched it with my family over the holiday, my holiday, and just a staggering achievement. I love that movie so much.
Right. Yeah.
I'd love to see a best adapted screenplay for Dungeons and Dragons. That'll never happen. Speaking of genre content.
Hard same. I was looking at that and I was thinking like, yeah, they're going to have no interest in that. But also visual effects. Dungeons & Dragons visual effects was great. Like they
seamless, smooth, and it felt like Yes and that had a $200 million CGI in it. Like the fact that it felt so lively and impromptu, and then throwing in the special effects into that world. Good God.
That and Guardians, the visual effects in that movie were outstanding. I mean, the bar has been set for so long in that, but I think that, they kept upping and blending special and visual in ways that was fun and unique and exciting.
My deep cut Oscar love or wish would be Glenn Howerton to get some love for Blackberry.
Yeah. I could see
he's insanely good.
We still haven't watched it yet, but I could see that. Listen, that's the other thing is that the Academy loves those performances. They love those like, comedic actor showed that he can act and is in makeup.
Surprise! Acting in comedy is actually a lot harder in times because of timing. And like, let him flex.
Yeah.
All of Us Strangers. I'd also recommend you check out for performances. Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott, both fucking delivering. I mean, I truly think this is one of the better years in genre and Oscar film. American Fiction, I think, is going to get a lot of love that it deserves. American Fiction is so aggressively funny.
We talked about this on the Lost episode when we recorded last. That we both agree that 2023 is going to be like a 1999 a couple years from now. Where we're gonna,
I think in 10 years we'll look back and go, that was also that year.
Exactly. It's going to be like, wait, really? That all came out within that same fucking year? And I think that a lot of it has to do with just the timing of the pandemic. Was a lot of projects were either shelved or put on hold or, moved because production was moved because other movies that were already completed, those release dates were moved. And now we're getting kind of all of this abundance. It's the analogy I made last time was like, it's like when you hold the kink in the hose and then you let go and it all comes out. Yeah.
What's funny is I thought that 23, 24, and 25 would all be too stacked, and then the strike happened, and I was like, nope, less so. Like, 2024 has got a lot of stuff. Not a lot of it was filmed recently.
No.
But even 2024 is already showing a little bit of that, like, strike-affected blank. So I don't think 2024 will be looked at with the same reverence, but I think there'll be a lot more sleepers because it was stuff that couldn't really get announced. That was stuff that couldn't really get promoted. And then 2025 is going to be so genre heavy if they can get stuff back like on track. I think the pause in genre content 2024 is very smart and necessary. But then I'm worried unless it's exceptional. I don't think 2024 is going to be the death rattle of superhero content. I think if the stuff isn't great in 2025, people are so excited to talk shit about comic book movies.
Right.
If they're not great in 2025, that might be the beginning of the end for it to scale. It's not going to end just like Westerns didn't end.
Right.
But if 2025 isn't great, I do think that's going to be the tapering off. And I don't know what's going to replace it yet, which is interesting. I don't know what the next...
Can I say, I actually think that I forgot to mention this to you when we recorded our own, and then I briefly touched on it in what the listeners heard when I recorded with Alexandra. I feel like, so we went to the Iron Claw, and there was not a single pre-existing IP in the trailers, and it was astounding. I was so excited. Also, it feels like there is a resurgence of the comedy action movie, the very fun action movie that like was kind of more popular in the early 2000s. That I'm
Rush Hour Shanghai era.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally like Argyle looks incredible. Even the Beekeeper looks really funny. There was that other movie. Oh shit! I think I did this exact same thing with Alexandra. There was another like action trailer. That was like an action comedy.
I mean, Guy Ritchie's got a movie coming out this year that I haven't seen a trailer for, but like just the cast and his ness. I'm like, yes, more of this.
Yeah, but in any case, there's like a lot of those sorts of movies that are starting to feel fun again. That are starting to feel like they're not too serious for for like an action movie, and I feel like they're not, because what the problem was is that Marvel ruined the action comedy because all the action comedies became they became
IP.
Superhero comedies, which I enjoyed. I'm not dogging on Marvel, but like that's what took
it was hard for other things to come out in that space.
100%. And so, the free guys of the world, which even that was a little bit more high concept, were tougher to break through. The sort of like, well, if people are going to go see something like this, they might as well go see.
And then you had
Chapter
stuff
10.
coming out on Netflix that no one was talking about because Netflix was putting out a movie a week.
Right,
Like,
sure.
I personally enjoyed, like, I didn't think that Red Notice was exceptional, and I didn't think that
No.
the one that we're getting a sequel to it, Old something, the one with Charlize Theron, I did like.
The Circle?
Old Guard.
Oh, Old Guard. No, you're right.
Yeah, Old Guard we're getting a second one of, and I really loved the Chris Evans, Ryan Gosling one that everyone hated, Gray Man. I thought Gray Man was spectacular.
Right.
But that sort of thing, not on Netflix, I think could do well if we bring those movies back to theater. Like mid-budget action comedy is what I love.
That's what I'm talking about, and I feel like that's kind of there feels like there's a resurgence of that on the cusp, and I think it is because of the lack of genre content. I think that is going to be taking those slots in a way that I think will reinvigorate that genre. That'll make it seem fun, because I feel like those movies used to feel like they were for everybody. And then they started,
and now they feel like homework to people that haven't kept up.
No. They felt like, I think after a while they started feeling like dude movies. It was like The Expendables was the only thing that was like, and those movies
or Extraction and John Wick.
Yeah, sure. Which take
which
themselves,
I think are helping because they're everyone, but they read like they could be misinterpreted dude.
They're also just they're a little bit too serious.
Yeah,
where it's like, no, we want a little bit of farce, and I think like maybe Fast and Furious is that a little bit, but even those they're not as tongue in cheek as I think people claim they are.
And I think Guy Ritchie has been keeping it alive, but unless you like his style, it's pretty singular. Like Guy Ritchie makes Guy Ritchie movies.
Yes.
So a lot of people have kind of honed into that. Matthew Vaughn makes Matthew Vaughn movies that kind of feel Guy Ritchie-ish. Like those two guys have been keeping it alive, but unless you like really fast-paced edits and dialogue, that won't be your action comedy.
100%. 100%.
So I'm glad they've kept making those, and I'm really excited to see more of those, but I'm also excited to see more Rush Hours, more Shanghais, more
Again, I think
stuff.
Argyle looks so fun.
Oh, I can't wait, dude.
Yeah, God, I wish I could remember the other one.
That's in a couple weeks.
I know. I wish I could remember the other one, because there was another one that played. Man, it looked really funny, starring a lady. And it almost seemed like one of those like didn't realize you were a spy kind of movies. And I don't know, there's quite a few of them, and I'm like, yeah, I'm always in for a fun one of those.
And Hitman coming out again. It's Netflix, but Hitman is Linklater and Glenn Powell of the teaming up again after Everybody Wants Some.
Yeah,
and Glenn Powell co-wrote it with Linklater, which I'd be excited.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a co-written Linklater credit, much less with the actor in it.
Right, that is really interesting.
So yeah, Linklater. I mean, he's one of both of our favorites. I'm excited to see an action Hitman comedy directed by, co-written by, and then Glenn Powell, who's just killing it.
Right. Yeah, no.
Have you been following the saga of his rom-com?
No. Oh, but I just heard that it is starting to breaking box office records, even though there's no advertising for it.
Yeah, not only is there no advertising, it's not had depreciation. It's had appreciation week to week, unheard of.
Nice.
It is now the most successful rom-com in 9 years. No, sorry. It is the most successful R-rated comedy in 9 years, and the one 9 years ago was the third in a series. So it is the biggest R-rated comedy. It is also the biggest rom-com in a long time, and no advertisement. And I think week 1 to week 2, it went up, not down, up 47%.
Holy shit.
Like that is a figure. That is a staggering number for a non-IP property.
What's the name of it?
That's something, anything.
It's one of those. It's one of those movies where it's just they
3-word titles where it's like,
right. Let's see.
But I love Glenn Powell, man.
Yeah. Let's see. What's Oh no, I don't want his wiki. I want his IMDb. What are you doing, Glenn?
Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell. I'm gonna go to my watch list. It's in anyone but you.
Anyone but you. Oh boy.
It's doing well with that title.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is definitely on the list, which is crazy too. But also, it should be stated that this is another example of it's panned by critics, but people want
to see a movie.
People want this stuff.
I haven't been to the theater in like 3 weeks because I've been doing family stuff, running around. My first 2 things I'm watching this week when I have time are Anyone But You and Beekeeper. You know what those did on Rotten Tomatoes? Not great.
Also, the guy that did this movie, Will Gluck, I think he's the guy that did Easy A, which is one of my favorites.
so much.
Yeah, that's really good. Let's see. Wait, am I right about this? Director. Oh, he did the Peter Rabbits. He did the Peter Rabbits movie. Oh, he did the
Friends with Benefits, which is not great, but not bad.
He did the remake of Annie, which nobody liked.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, no, all right. So his best movie out of the bunch is clearly Easy A, but I mean, fairness, I didn't see Peter Rabbit's. Maybe they're incredible.
He did Sarah Romer's Fired Up, which is that cheerleader movie that I had.
He did what? I didn't even see that.
Have you ever seen Fired Up? Sarah Romer's.
Sarah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that it was a name you said.
Sarah Romer was like such a crush in the 2000s, and this was like,
right.
Yeah, it was the one that got away.
The trailer. I'm sorry, the trailer. The tagline for Fired Up, the movie, is 2 guys, 300 girls. You do the math.
Bro.
But wait. What's that math? Could you explain? Is that 150 girls to a guy? Because that's too many girls.
I think I'd die.
That's bad math. Plus,
No,
300 girls. How do you know they're all straight? Probably not. Odds say
statistically.
Also, what are the odds any of them are interested in either of these two fucking schmucks?
Very small. Also, I've seen Themyscira. It doesn't go well for men that visit. I would just say that I'd avoid that 300-person island.
Oh boy. All right. Well,
award season. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the audience. By the time you're hearing this, you'll know who's up for awards. I've been very social media averse. I had an idea of like making like what my Oscar nominees would be, but I might do it, might not. It's funny. Like once I took some time off, it's last time I left out of anger. This time I feel like I'm leaving out of apathy. I just don't have a lot of interest in social media right now. It is my job, so that's unfortunate, but I definitely enjoyed the time away from it. The Twitter toxicity has just gotten to where it's like 80% of the platform.
The app is just dead. I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy. It is impossible to enjoy being on X. I mean, like I
loved Twitter. I hate X.
It's so the decision to put the Twitter blue at the forefront of all of the delivery completely ruins the app. It doesn't matter how many times you try to go and block people or whatever. It's just
there's too many of them.
It's useless, and it's also now just a video software. Like everything is a video. There's nothing.
And everything that plays is like stuff I don't care about, or it's like horrific stuff I don't want to see.
The reality is I've been averse to TikTok. I've made my first 2 real TikToks in the past couple of weeks. But it seems like maybe that is just, I don't like video, but it seems like if Twitter's just gonna be video anyway, that's the place to go, I guess. I think.
Yeah, I miss news via dialogue. I miss like conversations.
I have been using Threads. I think Threads is the best front runner. I don't think Blue Sky is working the way everybody wants it. I think Threads, because everybody already has Instagram, Threads just makes the most sense.
Yeah,
and
if Jim Lee, Devin Sawa, and Barry Keoghan didn't follow me on Twitter, I'd have quit. Those 3 are keeping me there. Those three follows have anchored me to this hateful app.
Yeah, I don't know. Not worth it.
Instagram is no. I'm weaning. I'm weaning and waning. But I feel like Instagram is really hard to like grow, and then TikTok is such chaos that it's fun and you might have stuff go, but it's hard to quantify. It's really hard to like.
That's why I think Threads is the place to go, because I think you could grow. There's plenty of room to grow on Threads, and also the fact that the actual threads work as categories. Like instead of just a hashtag, you actually speak within a community category, means that people who just follow a category will likely see everything that's in that category. And if you utilize categories in a way, that's smart, then I think you have a much better chance of growing an audience who actually cares about what you're saying on Threads. Yeah. Not that I have any interest in doing that, but it's my job. I literally get, the more the following, the more I have opportunities. Yeah. So unfortunately, I'm trapped on the .com. You should do it. You should definitely do it. Also, you already have a Threads account. So
yeah, I do.
I'm saying like because of Instagram, I know that you do.
Oh, right.
Like that's the point I'm trying to get. So it's like, everybody who follows,
it's like a 1.5 social media.
Yeah, and everybody who follows you on Threads, Instagram will likely just join you there because it give them the option to auto follow, and a lot of people just did. Yeah, whoever I'm following, just the one I follow there, and it's built in. Anyways, they're not paying me. They're not paying me. I don't give a shit about.
Solid ad for Threads, everyone.
At Jake Lloyd Bacon on all social media.
And now at Koijandra on all social media, including Letterboxd, thanks to Robin West Parker. That is going to do it for our Oscars awards talk. Before we get to the hotline calls this week, I do want to briefly give some love to a comic book, something I haven't done with a singular issue on this show in quite some time, but the book is that exceptional, and it's something that I knew Jake would want to talk about once he heard. Good golly, Miss Molly, Ultimate Spider-Man fucking slaps. The new Ultimate Spider-Man came out, and it is exceptional. Issue 1 dropped 2 weeks ago. Not only is it selling out left and right, not only is it a reminder of how good the old Ultimate Spider-Man used to be, it is another new universe a la the 2000s Ultimate Spider-Man, so it is a great gateway.
It's a reboot. I was going to ask. Is
brand new comic.
Interesting. And they're just calling it Ultimate Spider-Man.
And what's crazy is in the year 2000, Spider-Man had been an adult for a long time.
Right.
And so they made him a young Spider-Man in Ultimate to reboot him. What's fascinating to me is we are so sick of this, in my opinion, badly written infantile Spider-Man in the mainstream title. This Spider-Man is a 30-something dad, and he's finally back with Mary Jane after all the chaos of Brand New Day nearly 20 years ago. And it's a very mature father Spider-Man. And I'm looking at like society, and I can't help but wonder, in the 2000s, we were trying to find escapism in the like being younger. And now that all of this Gen Z and millennials have endured so much, we're like, okay, we're adults. I don't really identify with this young side. And like, it feels really interesting that our escapism is through a father and him. Like, he's basically, the old Spider-Man was all of the power and you had to learn the responsibility. Now that they've made him older, it's all of the responsibility, and then he gets the power as an adult.
Right.
Like, he's already responsible for a family. He's already a responsible man. Now he gets to wield it.
It's an origin as he doesn't
at 30-something.
He doesn't becomes I just thought it was like, he's just been knocking around and he's in his 30s.
No, dude, he's like a 30-something becomes Spider-Man.
Oh shit! I gotta.
Dude, it's so good. I cannot overhype it. It's Jonathan Hickman who's responsible for rebooting X-Men, all the Krakoa stuff that I'm hit or miss on, but overall he's a genius idea man. This writing, it's Spider-Man's funny. His love with Mary Jane feels so palpable. He writes MJ incredibly well. The issue 1 doesn't have a single villain, doesn't have a single suit, doesn't have a single power. It ties in how the universe is being born so well. There's an Ultimate Universe launch comic from 2 months ago you don't need to read. You can if you want, but you don't have to. It's literally Ultimate Spider-Man #1. So Ultimate Universe kind of explains how the universe ended, like the old Ultimate stuff.
Okay.
And this ties into that universe ending. So there's a character in Ultimate Spider-Man #1 that you will recognize, but if you read the old stuff, you'll have a little bit more weight to him.
Okay. All right. That's
I
respect that you're vague explaining, but it's very confusing to somebody who doesn't know what you're talking about.
The character is cool, whether you've read it or not. If you've read it, it just has a little bit more emotional weight to you.
Sweet.
And it's Mark Cicchetto art who did that Daredevil Roman Zdarsky that's fucking banging. It's such a good book. And it's also been selling out, which makes me happy. It sold out within 2 days at all local comic shops.
When did it come out? When was it?
The first print came out on the 3rd.
Nice.
And for second print's coming out this week. That's why I'm giving it some love. It'll be the second printing will be in your local comic store today.
Do we think that this is a new long-term run for them, that they're starting
100%? It's not an arc, it's a run.
Right.
Ultimate Black Panther launches in February, Black History Month. So X-Men launches in March.
They are literally relaunching Ultimates.
And all new universe, yep.
Interesting.
And your boy's got to be there every day.
I wonder if that's like I wonder if this isn't a like, hey, we have all of these new, eyes on what we are because of the cinematic universe, conquering cinema for a decade and then petering away. But
this is the new medium for that.
It seems like 10 years ago, if people were like, oh, what's this Iron Man movie? This is really good. I want to go check something out. They could point to, start in Ultimate Spider-Man or, Ultimate Universe, because that was only 10 years ago. So it wasn't that long ago. But now that's 20 years old. So kids who really love, Tom Holland as Spider-Man, who grew up watching these, they're like, shit, that's not really accessible anymore because life is so different now than it was in 2001.
24 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So like, I wonder if this is them just being like, yeah, we need this is just for the new generation. But it's weird.
And I think that's genius because it's also like if you were 10 when Iron Man came out, you're 25 now.
Yeah, totally.
You're probably going to relate with a 30-year-old Spider-Man more than a 15-year-old Spider-Man.
Right. Depending on what kind of 25-year-old you are. But yeah, I get it.
That's fair. I mean, I as a 35-year-old am very happy to read about Spider-Man in a way that I feel approachable.
Sure. Yeah. Well,
I love the Straczynski run because I like Spider-Man as a teacher. I don't I can go like, oh, nostalgia for high school, but like if it's a new Spider-Man, I think I've seen that. This is like taking away the pearls. Like I'm done with Batman's fucking pearls.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's so fucking good.
Well, that's exciting, and listen, new Spider-Man is always really exciting. By the way, speaking of comics, just because we talk about spreading the wealth of must reads. For Christmas, I got my cousin Paul Saga, and
Yes.
and the Immortal Hulk, because I was like, because he's a big horror guy, and I thought,
perfect.
and he's never read Immortal Hulk, and I was like, shit, you gotta. Here's the thing, you cannot find the volume 1 hardcover of Immortal Hulk. It is nowhere. So I had to get him. I had to get him just the trade, not a floppy, but just the trade version, which I was bummed because I was like, but I told him I got him that and I got him Saga, and I was like, by the way, this isn't a gift to you because all I've done is cost you however much it's going to cost to finish these
hundreds
books.
of dollars because for this addiction.
Because you're going to have to finish these books. Like the second you finish either of these number ones, you can be like, well, shit, I got to keep reading.
Welcome to the suck.
Yeah. So I got him those as part of his Christmas present. I just thought I'd share that with you as somebody who ultimately got me to read Saga.
That makes me so happy. My dad, I'd been buying my dad graphic novels for a couple of years and then stopped because he was just like not reading them like he used to. And my dad's the one that got me into comics. If you guys have heard the my family episode on this very channel. But he just like had gotten busy and he wasn't drawing, and I found out he just didn't want to read when he wasn't drawing. Like he felt like the connection was kind of an Ouroboros. So my dad started sketching again, and about 6 months ago, my dad started reading again. So the last 3 trips home, I didn't get him any graphic novels, and we just hadn't talked about comics as much. This really cool thing happened this trip where not only did we go to a bunch of comic stores that I'd never been to while I was traveling, my dad was actually buying like We Only Find Them When They're Dead, Something Is Killing the Children books because he listens to the show.
Right.
So my dad was buying the books I'd been recommending you guys all of these years, and it was really cool to see like in real time. He inspired me. I'm inspiring his reading. It's all because of this show. And then I'm logging all of my comics into Cover Price, which is this app that I adore that does real-time price guiding, and it logs your books, all the covers, all that stuff. So it's a really good resource, kind of like Letterboxd.
Right.
But I went through most of my long boxes are back east at my family's home, and I went through my entire first long box of Uncanny X-Men because I got 2 new Silver Age Uncanny X-Men books I needed. Now I'm down to 91, motherfuckers. Yeah, but 91 comics to go. I went through my first 300 X-Men, and me and my dad sat there. We went through the Claremont and Byrne era. We went through John Romita Jr. We went through Jim Lee, and we both talked about like the impact those stories had on us. And it was one of the honestly coolest moments I've had as a like father-son moment as an adult. Because it was him at my age reading those books. And when he fell out of comics, when he had me, and then us going back and getting back into comics. And it was from the 80s when he was, younger than I am. And it was really, really special to bond over Jim Lee, who now I have relationships with at cons. Talking about how he was inspired by Jim. And I'm like, well, Jim and I had this conversation about this arc that you were inspired by. And it was this beautiful, just like art share. So it was a really cool holiday for that.
I love that. Also, while we're on the comic kick, I got to give a shout out to this comic book shop out on Long Island in Huntington, called Escape Pod Comics. I popped in randomly when we were Christmas shopping, and I forgot to talk about this. Huntington Village is like one of the oldest towns on Long Island, so it's this very like you would like it because it's like a little New Englandy town. It's just like this cute little village. This is like a dream comic book shop because it's 95% trades, but it is everything is face out. Okay. And it's packed to the brim. I mean, like the amount of independent and unique and shit that I've never heard of on display at this store is astounding. They have Marvel, you can go buy Marvel, you can buy your DC, you can buy your big books, but like it's been a really, really long time since I walked into a comic shop, even shops that I love, like House of Secrets in Burbank and like, stuff out in LA. Like there are, shops that I love, but generally when I walk in, I see the same things I always see. And if you really want to like find something, you kind of got to like look for it. It's been so long since I walked through a comic shop and picked up like 30 books that I've never heard of and just looked at them like, oh, what is this? It's
cool.
It's like one of those shops that really leans into like check out unique stuff. They also have things. The categories are fantastic. Wait, I wish I could, did I take pictures? Shit, it was like a month ago now, so I don't remember. But he has things listed by like, it's, on Letterboxd, we were talking about how there's like nano genres. That's how he has sections that's like,
that's
do you
special.
do you like history? Check out all of these books that have some sort of historical element.
That's how you comic shop.
Yeah,
that's
do
cool.
you like, do you like satirical takes on capes? Here's an entire section that's all takes on capes that's not your mainstream, and like things are
Yeah.
organized. Oh, do you want stuff that's memoir based graphic novels? Like, it's just fantastic. The store is absolutely incredible. If anybody's ever out on Long Island, I highly suggest. Oh yeah, I found the pictures. Did I take pictures of the sections? Oh, I took a picture of the overall like store packed to the brim with everything outwards, but I didn't take pictures of the sections. But anyways, yeah, great shop. Yeah, if you're ever out on Long Island visiting Huntington Village, please check out Escape Pod Comics. They're also super inclusive. Their motto is comics are for everyone.
Love it.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. With all the Star Wars isn't for girls discourse. I love to see it.
Yeah.
That said, before we move on to hotline calls, Kapow Comics was the comic store I went to outside of
Kapow!
Atlanta, Georgia.
That's
It's about an hour north. Kapow.
That's a great name for a comic shop.
Yeah, Kapow Comics in Cumming, Georgia, spelled like you think, those dirty bastards. It's about an hour north of Atlanta. Kapow Comics, really cool shop. And they had 2 Uncanny X-Men I needed from, I think it was like issue 109, like the second burn,
Right.
like really old stuff. And they had that and new stuff. So I'm really impressed.
CAPOW?
KAPOW.
I'm sorry. That's what I wrote.
I knew that's what you meant,
And
but
it's even what I wrote, and I still said C because I am just a baby dyslexic.
That's Koi Cast. Kapow
Sherwood?
Comics.
Is it in Sherwood? Or you said
It's in Cumming.
Oh wait, there it is. Cumming, Georgia. They have I was trying to see if they have a social media to tout their social media, but I don't see an Insta, but I do see Kapow is on Facebook under Kapow with an exclamation point comics.
Anytime there's an exclamation point in the title, I'm gonna love it.
And Escape Pod Comics is just Escape Pod Comics on at Escape Pod Comics on Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. But anyways, all right. Well, good. We've had some comic shops. Get to reading. By the way, I also aside from gifting my cousin some books, I also borrowed Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe because I was like, I want to read that before Deadpool 3 comes out.
Yeah, you got 5 months.
Yeah,
Get into it.
yeah.
All right, well, that is going to do it for Comic Talk. Let's get into some hotline calls, you lovelies.
Hey there, guys. How you doing? It's Ben from Montreal. Hoping you guys are doing well. Simply had a question for you guys. Unsure for Jake, but I can quote Coy saying that he does not have any slabs comics, meaning graded, either from CBCS or CGC. I would love to know more about what made you, as a collector, decide to stay away from those. Temptation is temptation, right? There's always going to be that little extra book out there that has that little je ne sais quoi that makes you go, oh, I'd love to have this. When did you make the decision that graded books would never be your jam? And Jake, question is valid just for you. I'm unaware if you do or don't have any. But if you do, I'd love to know what issue it is. If not, why have you stayed away from head collectibles? And just for a kicker, that little cherry on top, if you were to have one book, that has emotional significance for you, we can all say Amazing Fantasy number 15, but what book would you have that would, make your world rock? Personally, me, its first appearance of Gambit, I managed to score a Chris Claremont signed edition. It's a 7.0, so it's not the greatest, grade in the world, but that book holds so many important, tidbits of Gambit lore. I love it. It's perfect. So in any case, mon ami, have fun, take care, stay sweaty, all that jazz. Coy, Jake, thank you so much. Stay you, bro. Laters.
Benoit talking about graded books.
This timing could not be more perfect because I literally put down a graded book at Kapow Comics in Cumming, Georgia. So I'm down to my last 27 Spider-Man books, 9 annuals and 27 mainstream titles. I have everything Sensational Peter Parker, Web of, all full runs. I need 27 more main title Amazing Spider-Man and 9 annuals. I'm really fucking close. Right. And they had one of the 27 I needed but it was CGC'd. It was actually Amazing Spider-Man 121, The Death of Gwen Stacy. Beautiful book, beautiful condition. Again, if you're here in this Kapow Comics, I'm giving you an ad for free. If anyone needs that book, as of a week or 4 days ago, it's still there. But the reason I personally don't like CGC books for my own collection is I do feel like, much like, okay, there's 3 versions. There's 3 reasons. One, the VHS DVD to Blu-ray problem. When you see them all lined up, it looks weird if they're different formats. And the most aesthetic reason is because if I start CGCing, I'd have to CGC them all because my OCD. That's the honest visual reason. 2, I don't like commodifying art. Jake, honestly, like I've talked about this before, how much Jake, Jake helped me really understand. The word content is pretty insidious in our culture. It's become pretty synonymous with art, and that's kind of how capitalism is able to put a stranglehold on art. And like Netflix making a movie a week is a problem. Netflix releasing so much content that isn't art is a problem. Hallmark making 52 Christmas movies a year is a problem, because then it does become content. You're just churning out stuff. And yes, you can find art in that content, but the reason behind you making the art when you are commodifying it, I think, is how you inherently lose the meaning of art. Art is meant to be emotion shared between others. To me, it's making something that connects you to the human condition. It's an exposed nerve of the soul to me. And comic books are about the space between the panels where you're the writer, director, and actor. You're the one living the story. When you slab that, to me, it is the visual manifestation of suffocating art. It is putting art behind a glass slab and going, this is now for sale.
Right.
And I don't sell comics. I don't resell comics. I don't flip comics. If there comes a day that I'm desperate, I might sell my variants or my doubles, maybe.
Right.
But I would never want to sell my comics. And as soon as you slab them, to me, and this isn't judging anyone that does slab them, it's just, to me, that becomes an item that is soon to be for sale. It's a commodification. So yeah, I look at the condition of all my comics and I grade them and I save them and I look at what they're worth, but that's more of a daydream than it is, intending to sell it. So even when I buy new comics, I look at the condition, but it's not with the intent of flipping. And third, to me, it is such a prohibitively costly thing that even if I wanted to, if it takes $40 to slab a comic, I'd rather spend $40 buying a comic.
100%.
So those 3 reasons are kind of the stack of it's never interested.
Yeah, and for me too, with a less poetic twist on, I like what you're saying about like it's literally sealing up the art. For me, it's also like if I have something, it's because I want to look at it. Even if it's really valuable, I'd rather keep something that I know is expensive. I'd rather keep it in a nice, clean, safe way, but in one that I can still open it if I want to.
And I usually don't with Silver Age. Like, if it's from the 60s, I rarely do, but I want to be able to.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. It's the reason why also I stopped collecting floppies to begin with, because I don't look at them. I don't reread a floppy. It's annoying. It's too much work. I don't like comic books. They're fucking annoying. Stop make them bigger. Stop releasing them so frequently and make them bigger. Comic books are dumb. You hear it first. That's why my entire collection has become trades, to the point where it's like, and the reason for that is because I'm not after something for value monetarily. I'm after something for emotional value. I want to fucking read it. I want to open it. I want to have it on my shelf and look at the spine and know how it made me feel. And every now and then I walk by and I'll see a book that I haven't read in a while, and I'll just fucking open it to a random page and just take in the art or take in a moment and then go like, oh, that's right. Oh yeah, that part in that story. Like for me, it's so experiential that the idea of grading a book is, and I don't know. Also at the end of the day, I'm just not a capitalist. I'm not a collector. I don't collect anything of value. I'm not, there is no, to answer your question about, oh, is there a book that you would really like? Oh, I'd want that. Yes. But I wouldn't want it bagged. I wouldn't want it boarded, rather. I wouldn't want it, graded and sealed in plastic. Maybe like the 64 Daredevil 1 or something like that, where I'm like, that would be a cool thing to own. I like the character. I like but none of that appeals to me from a, like, I don't feel the need to own history. I've never had that. I've never been that guy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I've never been that guy that's like, oh, I really want this collector's item. I've never cared about material items in that sense. I would be more than happy to have it in a brand new reprint that I can experience every day. Because to me, the message within is more important than the delivery. Now, there is something to be said about print quality, and there's something to be said about, I'm a sucker for aesthetic. To me, presentation is everything. We talked about how I don't like books that are too thick. I don't like omnibuses because they don't print well, and you can't the seam
See
in the middle.
center.
Yeah, so like there is something to be said about, maybe an older print has the really good paper where they've changed it. And so there is something to be said about my particular nature of liking stuff like that. But it'll never have anything to do with like, but is it in mint condition?
It's funny. I speaking of tangible media, with Blu-rays leaving Best Buy and with my vast, it's a fucking shame.
Alexandra and I were like, shit. Like, while we're here in New York, our entire physical media collection is just in a storage unit in LA, right around the corner from you. And I'm just like, do we buy Blu-rays while we're traveling?
Do we move these physical items?
Right. Because I'm like, also things are going to be cheap because they're getting rid of stuff. And I'm like, I want to go buy some movies.
So my Blu-rays, I'm actually going to log like I do my comics now and look at what I need. And I think I'm going to use Letterboxd, and I'm going to go back through and do my top 10 movies from every year since I was born and try to buy those on Blu-ray before Blu-rays are gone because of all this. Like, I have 700 Blu-rays as it is. I'm sure I have 90% of those top 10. Right. But I've been thinking about like when they pull stuff from these medias, like I don't have American Pickle and now I can't watch it. Right. So I'm going to go back through and pull movies that I want to own, and I'm going to log all the ones I do have. Right. But it's been funny. I just joined Discogs, which is for vinyl and CDs.
Very well.
I just got into vinyls in a hard way. I just got into vinyl to the point where when I was home in Atlanta, it's beautiful. I went to Georgia and Virginia, and I went to antique stores, and I was able to get like Huey Lewis and the News 2 vinyls for like $12, like classic great shit. And I'm logging them, but again, it's not to sell them. It's so I know what I have so I can refer to it. And it's been really cool to see that community and another tangible media community, another place sharing art and celebrating it. And now my Sundays, I'm meal prepping and listening to vinyl, and I'm trying to have a new vinyl of stuff I haven't heard yet, and a lot of old, so like disco compilations and like 90s rock compilations. And it's just been really cool to get all of this fear mongering with streaming, which I've always hated, that streaming has ruined a lot of things. I'm embracing the non-digital life more and more. Like I'm getting, and it's also fucking middle age hitting me hard, but I'm really embracing, like, I want to hear stuff with a little bit of static in it. Right. I want to hear stuff with a little more weight in it. And it's been really beautiful. I'm enjoying my aging more than I thought I would, as I fear it. Like the fear is making me grateful, and that's been really surprising.
Right. Respect. I like that. Also, welcome to the nightmare that is enjoying vinyl, because
God, it's expensive.
I've been there for a while. My collection is not huge, but it's pretty, it's okay. Thanks to fellow Dragon Wagon podcaster Matt Kessler, owner of Too Many Records, which is now a brick and mortar store in Portland. He opened up a store because his collection got to 4,000 or something.
Congratulations.
Anyways, it's a very expensive hobby, but it's a very fun, rewarding one. Also, it's the same sort of thing where I don't I've never bought a record because it's valuable. I've only ever bought a record.
That's what I mean. I looked him up in Discogs, and the number didn't matter. It's I just wanted to have it on record of I have this.
And there is something to be said about what I was talking about with sometimes sometimes I might want an old comic because the print is good or the colors, and vinyl's a good example of that, where it's I might want a slightly more expensive vinyl because it was pressed better, not because it's more valuable to own and resell, but because it is actually a better version of the art, the experience. Like I said, it's all about the experience.
When patrons, when we get to this week's Patron Only Pod, I have always said that is about art and reviewing and discussing and experiencing the art. I've had a very vinyl heavy last 2 weeks, so we'll be talking about some vinyl over on Patreon. We have plenty of movies to talk about from the end of the year, but I also want to talk about some vinyl with Jake. So if you're a patron and you're a vinyl head, make sure to listen to this week's Patron Pod. Yesterday's Patron Pod.
I've never done that. So exciting.
It's gonna be fun. Any other hotline calls?
Let's do this.
Hi, Coycast. This is Edward. I'm Edward Collins, first-time caller from Nebraska. I've been meaning to make this call for a little while now because Shia LaBeouf revealed on John Bernthal's podcast that he made up a lot of the stuff on Honey Boy about his dad. And I've been meaning to wonder what Coy's reaction to that is. Let me know on the podcast.
Edward Collins, thank you so much for this call. Full disclosure, we took this voicemail on the Lost episode, but because it was Edward's first time calling, I figured we would redo it because it's mostly just someone asking your opinion. And so even though you already did this once very eloquently to me and no one else, Coy, Edward wants to know if knowing about some of the exaggerations of the real life story that inspired Honey Boy affected your enjoyment of Honey Boy post Honey Boy.
So it was interesting. I've given very few films 5 stars, much to many people's chagrin, just the way I interpret art. I think to get a 5-star, it's a really special piece. I don't think there is perfection, but it's the thing that touches as close to perfection for me. So it's 27, 28 films. That said, at one point, Honey Boy had been one of those films because of how much it impacted me. It was dealing with an actor I had grown up with. It was dealing with daddy issues. It was dealing with emotion. It was dealing with going through therapy. It was dealing with a lot of things that I hold very near and dear to art. So it had been a 5-star film to me. And at first, when I heard John Bernthal's interview with Shia, I was like, oh, okay, that doesn't change my experience of the art because I wasn't watching it because of the true story. It kind of became sprinkles on top of the frosting. Not even the frosting, literally sprinkles on the frosting. The frosting was the incredible art from Alma and Shia, and that was enough for me. But the more I thought about it, it did eventually drop to a 4.5-star experience because there was something about the way Shia personally, to me, expresses art. Shia LaBeouf is the reason I first came across the idea of metamodernism. Metamodernism being my favorite way to study art. Shia's interpretation of art is literally something that I appreciate. So weirdly, if it hadn't been Shia's story, it might not have been a demerit. But weirdly, because I felt like my connection to how he views art, he was kind of shortchanging himself by lying, by crossing that line between autobiographical and fiction. I have no problem with it being a fiction. It's still a beautiful movie. It's still an incredible feat. But since he's someone that I really appreciate his perspective on an artist making art, I felt like he kind of lied to himself to get that perspective. And it did affect my perspective on the art. So anyone else, I would say, I wouldn't expect you to change your opinion on it. But since I have a personal investment in the man and the way he expressed himself through that movie, it did eventually barely. It's still an A, but it's just not an A+ for me. So it did kind of change my view.
Yeah, I'm of the camp of like the movie didn't change. It's not like when that came out. Now, from now on, whenever you watch that movie, somebody like a random unknown character just randomly puts his head on screen and goes, "That didn't actually happen." If not, like, this movie's not that good anymore. Why is that guy constantly popping out and saying that?
But it's not like it dropped to a 2. It just it's a slight.
I know, but it didn't change the movie at all. The movie is what it is, and it whether or not it's good or bad is kind of irrelevant to whether or not it's
movies
true,
are subjective.
You know
what I mean? So like, it's not. Your experience is your experience of the art in general. That's why there's no such thing as best movie. It's favorite movie to me. So like my experience of the art changed, therefore the movie changed in my experience of it. Because you can't say, like, I can say that Barbie and Oppenheimer are 2 of the best movies of the year. But if someone didn't connect to Barbie, I'm not going to say like fuck you or to Oppenheimer because that's not fair to their experience of it.
Sure. There's also something interesting here too, where. And I didn't hear the interview. I didn't hear the Bernthal podcast where he told the story or talks about it. I don't know what is embellished or what isn't or whatever. But what's interesting is that there's something to be said about the things being not entirely true, being more honest than what is true, because that's how we experience the world. We tell ourselves stories of our memories, and we almost always get it wrong because we have experienced it through a lens of our own reality. Okay. You and I don't know what each other's friendship is with one another. Do you know what I mean? Like,
because we only have our own view.
People can be like, oh, Jake and Coy, they know everything there is to know about what we all hear. But your experience is so unique to my experience that if someone was like, make a movie about Koicast, your movie might be completely different than my movie, even
and that's
though
another, like,
the real story is the same on both ends.
I had this really interesting thought a few years back, and it's kind of hung with me, and it's hard to quantify, but I had the realization that, to me, no one fully exists in a way that they can be quantified, because we're saying the same thing. I see myself differently than you see me, than my mom sees me, than my friends see me. So the person that is Coy isn't real. He can't be put in a box because the box doesn't exist. It can't. So what you're saying about memory is that times 100 characters.
So therefore, Shia's father is irrelevant.
Because it doesn't exist. He doesn't exist in a way that's quantifiable.
If he was like, if he was like, I made this movie because of when I think back, this is how I imagine it. It was, even if this didn't actually happen, it affected me in such a way that this might as well have happened.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Again, I don't know the context of what was different, but anyway, just something to think about. Thank you so much for your call.
Thanks, man.
We really appreciate it. And what's the number that people can reach out to if they want to have their voice on the pod?
You can call us at 818-794-0622. That's 818-794-0622. You guys are the co-hosts. You're the reason we are here. So please keep calling in. You can also send a voice memo to contact@coycast.com. If you want to reach us and you're international or your phone's broken, I don't know what happened, but you can do that as well. Please do leave those hotline calls. We love to get them. Also, it's a new year. Please do share this podcast with your friends. Reach out. I've been better about including it in my stories on Instagram. I'm trying to share it a bit more. I'm trying to be not on social media, but also get the word out about this show. I love meeting Coycast listeners in the wild. I will be going to MegaCon the first week of February in Florida. I met a bunch of Coycast listeners in Florida last time. So if you guys can spread the word, we really, really appreciate it. And if you would like to hear more and want to hear the show every single week, check out the Patreon. We have so many episodes where it's Jake and I diving into art, diving into movies, diving into shows. This week, yesterday's episode will be diving into some vinyl. There'll be lots of conversations this year about art we've experienced, and whether we liked it or not. It's a fun conversation to have with Jake. So check out the Patreon. It is weekly, every single week. There are all sorts of perks. You can become a gift horse. You can be unpunchable. We randomize one winner per month, and that person gets to pick a piece of art we watch that week, as long as it's on streaming, Gil. And we can enjoy some glory together with you guys recommending some stuff. And also, by being an unpunchable gift horse, you get entered into a spinning wheel to get some free merch. So all sorts of goodness when you become that tier of patron. But you can also just become a patron in general, and that helps out the show, because we do put some serious hours into the show, even just recording as many hours. But Jake's got a lot of post to do. I've got a lot of prep to do. It's some hours, so that really does help make the time a little more cost effective to eat, because LA is expensive. And Jake wants to come back as much as he loves New York.
Also, make sure you're leaving ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And you can now, essentially leave comments on episodes in Spotify.
Oh,
in fact, one of the responses to our favorite Hotline Games of 2023 episode from a couple of weeks ago, somebody wrote Mesh or Mesh, Meche on Spotify wrote, "I had no idea about the comments until this episode, and I went looking for it. I love this show. I'm always learning new things." So thanks for that, Mesh. And I apologize if I don't know how your name is pronounced. But yeah, so you can leave those, and if every episode when we're doing this wrap up, I will remember. It'll be my reminder to go and pop on really quickly to see if anybody said anything about the previous episode. And if you have any questions or input, that's a great way to do that. And we'll do a little talk back there.
Yeah, the questions can be hotline calls. Comments can be there. That's great. Yeah, I love that idea.
And of course, there is the Discord as well, which is completely free, unrelated to the Patreon. You can find the link to the Discord on coycast.com, where you get all things Coycast, as well as merchandise, official merch.
We got shirts, we got mugs, we got all sorts of goodness over there, including brand new hoodies. There's a new design, new this year. Jake made it about November last year. That is my favorite piece of merch we have ever had. It is this beautiful thought bubble imagery encapsulating all of our favorite stuff. And Jake will actually make you one of those too. If you send him a little message, there's a little it's your own Patreon tier of his own. He design you some goodness.
Yeah, I haven't worked out the details on that. That didn't happen the way I wanted it to, but it is a plan. Write me if you want one of those for yourself, and I'll let you know how overpriced it will be.
Right now, his thought bubble is him thinking about how he's going to do that.
Yeah,
how's that for meta?
It was a really good idea, and then I just never did it because the holidays. But anyways, I think that's it. You can find us on the socials. He is at Coy Jandro. I am at Jake Lloyd Bacon. Use hashtag CoyCast to talk about the show. Is there anything else?
That is going to be everything for this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks here. We'll be back next week and yesterday, time travel over on Patreon. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you so fucking much to Tangible Media for existing, because they can't take that from us, those fucks. Buy some comics, buy some vinyl, buy some Blu-ray, and they can take physical media out of my cold, dead hands. Fuck streaming. Much love. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Very aggressive.
Scott and Arver here, along with
Jake Lloyd Bacon.
We're both actors and comedians, but far more importantly, we're both professional wrestling fans.
That is correct. And on our podcast, Pro Wrestling Palskis, we dive into topics new and old. We have multiple ongoing discussions, series, games, fantasy bookings, theories, gripes, and more each and every week in the most interactive wrestling podcast there is.
Features a real-time chat and weekly hotline calls from you, the listener.
So tune in at pwpalskis.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Wagon.